Hey everyone, welcome back to the Painted Springs Garage YouTube channel. Today I'm doing some cooling system repairs on the truck because yesterday I had a bit of an adventure with my daughter. We were heading out to Tractor Supply and it was like 22 Fahrenheit outside, well below freezing temperatures. And I was driving the day before when it was in like the high 30s and the truck was just totally fine. But when we were on going to Tractor Supply yesterday, it's only like 5 blocks to get to the highway, and we jump on the highway and start heading south. And after a few miles, we still had like zero heat in the cabin of the truck, which is abnormal. And it stayed that way for a long time. Now, at the same time, when we got maybe 6 or 7 miles down the road, the instrument cluster starts to show that the engine's overheating and gives me a message that engine over temperature, something like that, the gauge pegged out. And I thought, you know what? I bet the cooling system is frozen and we're not getting heat because there's nothing flowing to the heater core. And the engine's overheating because it's not getting anything from the radiator because it's just a solid block of ice. And sure enough, after we stopped and let it heat soak and everything thawed out, the cooling system started to work fine again. So I tested it, and there's like zero antifreeze protection to the coolant, so it's mostly water in the system, which is not great. But I did buy this truck used. It's very used. I know that it has some things and needs some repairs. I wasn't expecting that. But anyhow, while I'm replacing the water with antifreeze, I know that it also needs a radiator because it looks like someone shot a cannonball through the grill, and the AC condenser and radiator are both pushed in. In fact, I checked and there's no Freon in the air conditioning system, and I bet that's because the condenser is pushed in. So I'm going to put a new radiator in, a new condenser in. I believe it has a bad thermostat also because when I was driving it the day before, it took a really long time to reach operating temperature. So let's pull the thermostat out first, take a look at that. Then we'll get the radiator and AC condenser out, replace all that, and get the cooling system back up to snuff. And hopefully at that point, the engine's not damaged and everything is fine. So let's get to work here. All right, let's take a few minutes to look around the engine bay here. I just got the air cleaner off of here because I'm working at getting to the thermostat, which is right here with the hose coming out the top of it. That's the thermostat housing. Want to get that out, take a look at it. I'm going to replace that while I'm in here. But I noticed that the clamp on that large hose is way out of position. So it looks like someone's been here, maybe recently. And same thing on this hose here, the clamp is obviously out of position. Also, when I retrieve drain the coolant out of here, there's not much coolant in the system. So it may have been low, hopefully not for too long here. I was getting heat inside the cab, so it was, had enough coolant to get, coolant up here to the heater core. You see back there, the hoses go into the heater core, which is above the engine. So I don't think that it was a low coolant problem. More likely I lost coolant because of the overheating and boiling yesterday. But that wouldn't put the clamps out of place. But another thing you want to look at is just how much room there is in the engine bay here. This is a pretty big engine. It's a 5-liter V8, but it's a dual overhead cam motor, makes almost 400 horsepower. So it's a big engine, but there's lots of room around it to actually get in and work on stuff. And it's at a height that's comfortable for me to work on as well. I'm a tall guy. So let's keep on going here, get some of these hoses off, get this reservoir bottle out of the way, and get that thermostat out of here. All right, so I got the thermostat housing off of here, which actually lives down here and connects like this hose, and these tubes come off that housing. Then there's the hose that goes up here that didn't have a tight clamp. So I got that out of here. Also, it's attached to the upper radiator hose. So I got the upper hose out. Still need to get the bottom hose out, but we'll get there momentarily here. So let's look on the bench here. And I got to pull a couple bolts out of here. And then the thermostat is in there. We can take a look at it. All right, let's get these two bolts out. And we'll see what shape this is in. Of course it's really crazy tight. Why wouldn't it be? All right, well, looks like it's a bit distorted here. The seal is distorted. And is it hanging open? Doesn't really look like it's hanging open. It looks like this entire piece here would plunge in against this spring. And that is nice and tight.
3:28 a.m.
So the water pump I took off, not because I had a problem with it, but I wanted to make sure that I don't have a problem. And I don't. It looks good. Now I wanted to get a new seal for it, but just that seal, that O-ring, is like $70. So I'm going to take my chances and reuse that. But water pump looks okay. Here's where the thermostat housing bolts to, which is this guy. So this bolts onto the water pump over there. And then in here is where the thermostat goes, and this truck has had a code for thermostat efficiency, basically saying that it's taking it's taking too long to warm up. And this is a new thermostat, another 190-degree thermostat. I tested the thermostat that came out of here, and it tested fine. It opened right about 190 or so degrees Fahrenheit. But since it's open, this is like a $25 part, so I'm going to put a new thermostat in here, something like that. And then this little housing goes on here with a new O-ring, which I have right here. So I'll put that back together, and then put the water pump back in the truck, and then bolt this on when it's in the truck. And first, though, I'm going to pull the radiator and AC condenser the rest of the way out, swap those out. Well, I've got a little bit extra room with water pump out of the way to work in there. And then we'll get everything back together here. Well, I left a sample of my coolant outside overnight, and it is about 23 degrees out there Fahrenheit. And sure enough, the coolant is like a slushy here. Not totally frozen, but it is definitely icing. So that explains why it was overheating the other day, because slush doesn't flow like fluid does through all the coolant lines in the engine. So, yep, low antifreeze mixture was part of my problem there. Well, so I got the radiator and condenser out, and you can see what the problem is here. Is it's just kind of a mangled mess. You know, there should be a nice gap, like kind of like that, like all the way through, but these are just like smashed together. And looking at the side here, or at the AC condenser, you can see that it's like bowed in, and down here on the mounts, especially this bottom one, you can see just how bent that is from the AC condenser being pushed in so far. So Let's see here. I got to transfer these rubber panels off of it. I think one of the mounts, yeah, this bottom mount stuck on there from the truck. But here's what they should look like. This is the new radiator and condenser. And they came separately, but I stuck them together already. And you can see that there's nice clean gap all the way down here, and they're straight and ready to go in the truck. And I've got the transmission cooler ports here. I've got the AC condenser, you know, where the lines go on the condenser here. So just got to transfer over those flaps and put the rubber mount from over there back in the truck. And we'll get this radiator in. Alright, well, another thing I need to do on this truck before I start driving it again is top off the rear differential fluid, because it's leaking from the pinion a bit, and I put my finger in the fill hole of the differential and I couldn't feel anything, so it's at least a little bit low. And you know, these bottles have this convenient tip that you can, like, you know, shove into the fill hole and squeeze it, but you know, I feel like there's not always room to get it in there. Sometimes you end up just leaking a whole bunch out everywhere else. So what I like to do is use these little fluid pumps that you know, I mean, it's pretty simple. You just stick it down in the bottle, and then you can pump it and you know, dispense fluid that way. In fact, I even have some hoses here where you can, you know, add a hose on the end of the pump, and then you just set the fluid on the ground and you put this in the fill hole, and then you pump it, and much cleaner, easier, maybe a little bit slower, but much less mess. So let's get this put together and put a little bit of fluid in the diff. Alright, well, that was easy enough, but it took way more pumps than I was hoping it would to top off that differential. Probably about, I'm guessing, like 2/3 of a quart. So hopefully the bearings are okay in the diff, but it's full now, so I'll come back soon and fix that pinion seal leak. Well, maybe soon, we'll see. And but yeah, should be good to go for now. Let's get some coolant back in this truck, and yeah, we'll get back on the road then. All right, so we got, I think, everything back together here. Even the air intake system back on. We got the new radiator and AC condenser hiding away down here. The coolant bottle is, I guess I could add a hair more to that, but it's basically full. So I think that we're ready for the startup here. And then we got to let the cooling system get to operating temperature and burp out the air. And I think that's all. So let's get the garage opened up here, and so I can back out just a little bit, get the tailpipe out the door, and then we'll fire this thing up. Yeah, this hose is getting pretty hot now, so the thermostat's opening. Yep, and the lower hose is warm now too. It was cold just a minute ago. So, yeah, the hot coolant goes from the engine to this side of the radiator, comes over here, then goes back into the thermostat housing on the cold side. So it's definitely circulating through the radiator now. Now, when I filled the cooling system, I filled this reservoir, of course, but then I'd pull off this hose here to let the air burp out there. I pulled off both hoses one at a time at the heater core until the air burped out there. Let's see, one more hose, one of these over here on the front of the engine. So I think I got most of the air out of the engine when I filled it just by opening up air gaps. So I'm not really expecting a lot to come out here. I guess we'll give it a couple more minutes, see if we can get the fan to come on. And if it hasn't burped the air and gone back down, it may just be, no air in the system already. So I'll take it for a drive then and see what happens. So we'll give it for a few more minutes. I gotta fill up the windshield washer reservoir anyhow, so let it idle, do that, take it from there. All right, well, my camera shut off for a minute there. At some point it shut off. But the engine got to like 217 degrees and the reservoir here turned into a bit of a volcano. So I'm not sure if it was burping out an air pocket or boiling or a combination of both. But I shut the engine off and it boiled over for another, 15 seconds. But then all the coolant suddenly goes, all the coolant that didn't go out everywhere went like, and I don't know, I probably lost like a gallon or so because it's like on the floor everywhere here. But then I put like 2 gallons in, and now we're like, at a pretty good level between the min and the max. So I'm letting it run again. And meanwhile, we have come down. Let's see, will it show you the screen? Is the screen too bright? There we go. ECT's down to 198. So I think it liked that. So we may be at a point where I should take this for a drive around the block. Man, that long-term fuel trim, what is that? Almost minus 8%. So it's pulling fuel out of here. I wonder if I've got an injector that's stuck open, or minus 4% on bank 2. So I've got a set of spark plugs for it. Maybe it's not burning real well, or maybe I got a fuel injector that's leaking a bit. I'll do some more diagnostics another time. But the temperature, I'm pretty happy about the temperature right now. So maybe I'll take it for a little drive here and see if the temperature stabilizes and the coolant level stabilizes, and take it from there. Alright, so I've been cruising for a little while here, just driving around the back roads, and temperature's been pretty good. On the cluster, it's like right in the middle. If I look at my scanner, it's been hanging around like 185 to 195, more so just a hair over 190, which is good because it's a 190 degree thermostat. So I'm going to keep on driving around for a little bit. In a few minutes here I'll pull over, check the coolant, but I think at this point we are good to go and the air is out of the cooling system. Alright, so just stopping here at the hardware store for a minute. Let's check our coolant level. Let's see, there we go. And it's still, it's maybe dropped just a hair, so maybe there's still some air moving out of the system, but that's, basically right where I left it. So, looking good here. Everything's still kind of covered in coolant, but check our hose connections. I don't see any kind of like fresh coolant anywhere. Yeah, that all looks good. So I'll have to go to a car wash or someplace I can rinse all this off soon, but I'm going to drive a bit further, but I think we're good. All right, just pulled back in my driveway and I think we are good to go here. Check the coolant level one more time. The engine off. See if the camera will focus. There we go. And yeah, looks like we are right in the min-max range. So right about where it should be. You know, probably top that off a little bit more before I drive it again. But then get all this rinsed off because it smells like coolant because there's coolant everywhere. But yeah, looks like we're fixed. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. I got the truck fixed now with a new radiator and AC evaporator. I got to recharge the AC still, but it's winter time. I'll do that soon enough, but got the air out of the cooling system, so truck is good to go to drive now. So it got a little bit of mess to clean up, but coming up next here, I've got a leveling kit for the front suspension to raise that up like 2 inches, make it closer to level with the rear. And then I got some bigger tires to go on it. Like 33.5 inches tall by about 11.5 inches wide. So I can take this off-roading. That's what I bought it for. But thanks for watching. Stay tuned. See you next time.